Wrestle me, Mark!
Wrestle me, Peter!
Oh, we're in a hot box on the hottest day of the year.
It's like being in hell. We are back in 1993 and we're covering the first episode of Monday Night Raw.
Lovely.
Well, basically, the sort of history of this is for 8 years on the USA Network, up to this point, WWF have been providing a show called Primetime Wrestling.
Right.
And Primetime Wrestling is sort of like a B/C level show.
Yeah.
And what it had matches, quite often ones between mid-carders, so it wasn't just the traditional big star versus a jobber, which is what you saw on Superstars and Challenge. And what they had was they'd have these matches and then it would cut back to the studio and Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan would be there on set and they would discuss the match. And it was there that you get this brilliant relationship between Bobby and Gorilla,
Yes.
Which is completely beloved. So Primetime runs for 8 years. By the end, they're beginning to go, we need to freshen this up. What this was an attempt to go, how do we stop the slight sort of sense of we are still stuck in the mid-80s? So you've got, Gorilla and Bobby Heenan, neither of whom are spring chickens, on air. You've got formats that have been used for nearly a decade, and they're getting a slight feeling that they are behind the curve on this. What you notice in this Raw is they have a little bit of the past is still there. So when they talk about the Royal Rumble, they cut to Mean Gene sort of in the WWF Control Center.
Yeah.
And it feels both incredibly archaic and the most professional thing on the show when they do it. The show itself opens with Sean Mooney, who, again, probably not long for the world. He is part of the old order of the men who wear the WWF dinner jackets and sit behind consoles. He is outside with Bobby Heenan, and Bobby Heenan is trying to get in.
Oh, I missed Bobby Heenan. It's so nice to see him again.
It is, isn't it? And the worst thing about this is an angle that's actually real life. They are putting Bobby Heenan on the outside. Yeah, and they are beginning to tell the audience here as well, which is whether Heenan was aware of it or not, I'm sure he was. He's a bright guy. But what they are, of course, doing is they are saying, we are moving on, and Heenan is
not
old.
allowed yet.
He doesn't deserve to be here, and if he tries to get in, boo him. I mean, it really is a bit of a heartbreaker, really. The other thing is, in this bit, he is so good. He is so good in every single little bit they give him. Oh, but then the credits hit, and the credits, Pete. I mean, if you were going to say, show me 1993, it's loads and loads of images, still images that have been stretched with a basic sort of graphics package, and they are flying past you. It's sort of slightly off neon colours.
Yeah.
It's a bit sort of surf feeling, and the sax, Pete. At the end, he goes.
But they've gone for a kind of like Saturday Night Live kind of like, it's live, it's raw, it's kind of, this is entertainment.
It is.
But they've gone for like so 90s.
Haven't they? The other thing that they are, the good connection, of course, with Saturday Night Live, they really push the fact that this is live. Due to budgetary constraints, only one in about every 4 or 5 shows was live.
Right.
Because they would then continue to record the next 5 weeks in one block. And you cut to the hosts who are Vince McMahon, the Macho Man Randy Savage, and Rob Bartlett. I hated Rob Bartlett immediately.
I hated him immediately. I hated him as we watched the rest of the thing. But then I went back and I listened to a podcast where he gets interviewed. But he had no love for the craft. Really, everything he says on the show is so badly judged.
Oh, terribly.
He'll come back off, there's an ad break at one point, and he goes, during the break, Shawn Michaels pulled a knife on Max Moon. And it's like, mate, you cannot say that. It's too strong.
It is.
What we're talking about.
The problem is he is obviously, he was a guy at a certain level. And so what he is doing, and it never fucking works, is you take a job that you think is beneath you, and you think, but I'll do my thing, and I'll talk to my people, and my people will go, you were great, and everyone else will go, he's amazing. What happened was everyone just went, you're shit.
Yeah.
You are shit. And he's disgusting when you see him as well. So he's not balding, but his hair is going back at the temples.
Yes.
He's chewing gum. He has got like jet black sunglasses on indoors, and he's wearing one of those 1990s big shouldered sports coats. Everything about him, you just go, you look like you stink. You look like you stink of sort of farts, and you go to his house and there'd just be like porno mags lying around, The first thing he says coming up, it's Yokozuna. And it's like, oh, you got it fucking wrong, didn't you?
I mean, you say that. Mr. Fuji says Yokozuna as well later
Not
on.
once, Pete. Fuji says Yokozuna 3 times later in a pre-recorded segment that they could have said, Harry Fujiwara, let's just start
You
again.
should know. I mean, I know you're from Hawaii, but you are of Japanese extraction.
And this isn't
Let's
even
sort this out.
Yeah, and this isn't even like a made-up Japanese word.
No.
Yokozuna is a real word.
Yeah.
Fuji, mate, fucking sort yourself out. You're actually 3 times worse than Rob Bartlett.
Yeah. You won't see Bartlett again after like 13 episodes of this shit show.
No. So Bartlett himself, he appeared on Imus in the Morning. So Bartlett was on his show from the spring of 1987. He was a regular writer and performer, what I suppose you'd call a sidekick.
Yeah.
But I imagine when you're like Rob Bartlett, you're like, I'm not a sidekick.
No.
I'm a regular writer and performer. I did notice on his Wikipedia, there's a line that has obviously been put in there, and it just says, Bartlett wrote all the material he performed on the Imus show. And it sounded like that was something that somebody wanted everyone to know.
Yes. Questions had been questioned.
Yeah. He had a lot of characters that he did.
Yes.
They included Manuel Antonio Noriega.
Big, right?
Sort of funny. Fictional comedians Sheki Buta and Buddy Miyagi.
Right.
They both sound
They're problematic, aren't they?
He also did a lot of impressions, and he used to do impressions of The Godfather, Andrew Dice Clay, Rush Limbaugh, Larry King, Bill Clinton, Hulk Hogan, and Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Also did Yoko Ono.
Oh, that's going to be...
Oh, not good.
Right.
And I was reading through all this and I was like, I mean, this just sounds like the very worst of what American comedy was like in the 80s.
Oh, just hack bollocks.
So hack. He'd also had a quite big stand-up career. So he had performed on Long Island. And while he was doing his stand-up there, he had met Eddie Murphy. And Eddie Murphy, and another guy formed an improvisational trio who were called the Identical Triplets. Which,
Right.
I mean, you sort of go, you think he's a twat,
Yeah.
because he has no interest in professional wrestling, yet accepts a job in professional wrestling. Then you kind of go, he was in an improvisational troupe with Eddie Murphy. And I look at that and I kind of go, of course it was beneath him. At the time he was doing this, he wasn't like, oh, I had that career 5 years ago. He was right in the middle of it.
It seemed to sort of want to expand it into kind of like make it a bit political. Do gags that
Yeah.
you would see on Saturday Night Live. Make it feel like an event.
Completely. And I think they wanted that sense of going, you've got to watch because you will not know, what will they say next? Those things that Vince McMahon loves, but has always proved himself to be completely out of touch with doing.
Yes.
He would love people to be going, did you see WWE last night?
Yeah.
And he just can't work out how it works.
Because billionaires aren't funny. So what you would do in any normal kind of discipline, you would find your own team of comedy writers who would, painstakingly go through every possible person who could fit that bill.
Yep.
Road test them out, pilot them. What actually happened, Vince was just a fundraiser.
Yep.
And this guy was doing the fucking PA.
Yeah. And he came in and he said, don't look for anyone else. We found him. It's Rob Bartlett. That was it. He was just like, this is the funniest guy in the world. You should have seen how he ruled that room.
Yeah.
Was the basic thing.
It's Partridge and Cheeky Monkey. It's
Exactly that. And the same fucking result. You're absolutely right there, Peter. They must have been unhappy with it because I think people got back and they were like, what is that guy doing there? Again, pre-internet and social media, you did have that sort of sense of people hated him. But I don't know how they made it clear, but they did hate him. The problem is they booked him as a comedian. So he's like, I've got to sort of do gags.
Yeah.
And the only way to do the gags when you're in that room is to make fun of the product. The very, very first match is Yokozuna versus Koko Beware. And so, all he does with Yokozuna essentially just go, this guy is really fat.
Yeah.
And the problem is when you're building Yokozuna to become your champion, you want people to say, this guy is really dangerous. This guy is huge, but look at the way he moves. You don't want him saying things like,
there's a great match I can't wait to see this. Koko Beware versus Yokozuna. The guy's got the diaper thing going right up there in the middle between the dead man's land and no man's land. And watch out! Hector Bartlett's...
He ends up like, he does a one, he sort of goes, he's got his own no-fly zone. And Vince McMahon goes, and a bit later you can see he went, that went down well. So a bit later in the match he goes, he's got his own gravitational pull, and Vince goes, and he's like, yeah, I'm absolutely riding this. And his next one he goes, he should be wearing a bra. And
Well,
Vince
I don't know
just
about
goes,
that.
well, Vince goes, anything goes.
Hey, Vince, don't regulations indicate that Yokozuna should be wearing a bra? Not here in the World Wrestling Federation, and certainly not on Monday Night Raw. Anything goes.
Hoisted by his own petard of saying to Rob Bartlett, anything goes, anything goes. Yokozuna should be wearing a bra. I'm really
I'm
unhappy
not
about
part of
that.
that. That's so funny.
Coco is really exciting. And it's only when Coco comes out, you sort of go, you really get an impression of how big these guys are, how much bigger they are than the audience. And they seem, the smaller the venue, the more larger than life they seem. It's really, really thrilling.
And his Dayglow kind of scar get up.
Yeah.
So I forgot that was kind of his thing.
A hangover, I think, from his new high energy tag team with Owen Hart,
right?
Where they wore those sort of neons. He's got a great haircut here, which has a look of Kid and Play.
Yes,
and but it's impossible not to think, God, I would have liked to have seen Koko B. Ware in a match that was competitive because he does all the work here.
Oh, he sells just bouncing off Yokozuna at the first bit. It's like, wow, he really does bounce.
He really does. I mean, it seemed to me quite an unusual match to start with because Yokozuna does slow the things down, not just because he's big, but his music is ponderous, his entrance is sort of slow. And I suppose what it is he is such a remarkable physical specimen that if you are seeing him in this ballroom, you know, you are really like, that is incredible. Savage is mad. We accept Randy Savage as being Randy Savage.
Yes.
You know, we're like, oh yeah, that's what he does. He sort of speaks in an accent that no one else has got. And listening to him here, sort of actually being the person who rides to the rescue, apart from one time where he really, really fucks up. There's a bit here where Coco gets squashed by Yokozuna coming off the top rope, and Savage just shouts, "That's a squashola!" Just amazing.
That's the squashola.
Yoko's got a big bruise on his breast as well, which makes him look sort of like a big rotten apple, which is not the thing that you necessarily want to push. But that is a historic match, the very, very first match of Raw. Which they love to say is the longest running episodic TV show of all time. They bring out, at this point, they bring out their Raw girls holding up the sort of, like the ring girls.
Yeah.
Who are holding a thing, you know.
Very old school. Not seen that for a while, have we?
Very old school, yeah. It's difficult, isn't it, to work out how old people were in the past.
Yes. They were probably like 18 or something.
Exactly, or 19. And I look at them, I sort of go,
Are you 45?
Could be a lot older than me or a bit younger or in their teens.
Yes.
Absolutely. One of the girls who comes out at this point, she has just mad hair.
Right.
People talk about like 80s hair and stuff. She comes out and she's got like a wet haystack on her head in 93. This is still very much the late 80s. The sax of the theme, the woman with the funny hair, the ring girls, Rob Bartlett being a
still
thing.
there.
Yeah. We then cut to Bobby Heenan, who is talking about his new signing. He's basically saying to Mr. Perfect, watch out, my new guy is coming.
Hey, who is this guy, Narcissus? What do you know about him? Is he truly beyond perfect?
He's called Narcissus.
Narcissus, yeah.
And I love this as a name. It would end up not being used. So Heenan is talking about, he says at one point about Mr. Perfect, he says,
comparing you to Narcissus would be like comparing ice cream to horse manure. Now I know horse manure has its place in this world, even perfect horse manure.
There's a funny bit there. He sort of goes.
There's a place for horse manure, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's a place for horse manure.
He does. Now, I mean, there is a place in the world for horse manure. He says. And I was like, I don't really think people are going to get like, you know, I represent horse manure, where you'd be nervous about that sort of thing. He calls him that whole way through. You know, Narcissus is coming. Narcissus is coming. I think whoever came up with that was a little highfalutin for the WWE, and they would rename him by the time he appeared the Narcissist,
right.
Lex Luger. The Narcissist is a really awful name. I mean, Narcissus works because, but you know, the person who has the qualities of Narcissus as a nickname, and it's just too many S's and C's.
Yeah,
Narcissist,
and then add in something from Superman, pretty much.
Yes. Lex Luger did have an incredible physique. Not a pretty boy.
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, his face is too squished, like a boglin.
It looks a boglin. It's someone has drawn a boglin on a trash can.
It's but you used to be able to get these little kind of masks, these little tiny masks that you put your fingers through,
like Popeye.
Yeah,
and, sort of
and you'd make him
cars.
squish and talk. Yeah. And like he looked like that, basically. His face was too small. The V, you know, the V hold on your telly
Yeah.
would squish everything into one or two lines on the screen.
Very
Got
true.
bad V hold.
V-hole Pete Donaldson. New character. Bobby Heenan is back. He's outside, and this time he's dressed up as an elderly woman trying to get in. Heenan is of that sweet spot age where you're of an age where if you put on a wig and you're a man, you just look like an old woman.
You look like an old woman, yeah.
If you're an old
Very
woman
Mrs. Doubtfire.
and put on, like a moustache, you look like an old man. All sex has been aged out of you.
Yes.
You know, God, he's working, Heenan, isn't he? He's working even as they push him closer and closer to the mincer. You know, just tap dancing his way into the abattoir. God, he's great. Vince then interviews Razor Ramon in the ring.
Yeah, what I mean...
Wearing his shirt from Damn Flashes.
$1,000 shirt.
What complex here. He's off mic. Vince McMahon is using a stick mic, and Vince obviously knows which way round it goes.
Yes.
When he's speaking into it. And when he gives it to Razor, he gives in the back of it.
Yeah.
And so Razor, you can't hear a thing.
It's not a double and a dildo. It's very much, there's one end that works.
Yeah.
And
Meeting the Hitman Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. Are you ready? You're less than 2 weeks away.
Look at me, man. I was born ready. Chico.
Razor Ramon, because he speaks very slowly. His gimmick is
Yeah.
speaking very slowly with a very heavy accent that he doesn't actually have in real life.
That's right.
True. Right,
Yes.
okay.
Although oddly, I mean, when you do hear him speak, he does use that voice, even sort of in normal conversation. He's doing a sort of what is a Miami Cuban accent.
Yeah.
Is the
Hello, my
basic thing. Yeah, exactly. Say hello.
I'm
man.
gonna come and get you.
Hey, it man, he says at one point, I squash your little brother like a cockroach.
Ah,
Cockroach.
dear Lord.
Squashing your little brother like a cockroach. That was fun, man. And you know what else? There's nothing you can do about it.
And at the end, he does his classic thing. He takes the toothpick out of his mouth and he flicks it into Vince McMahon's face. And Vince McMahon, there is a moment where you go, he's either acting big, like, you made a big mistake, buddy, which he shouldn't be doing if he's just a commentator and announcer.
Yeah,
but
you
I
can't
don't
have
think
both.
he's
No.
acting. I don't think
He's
he's acting.
fucking
I think he
fuming.
has that thing of, going, remember when you talk to someone, you throw the toothpick in their face. And when he does it to Vince, Vince is like, you have made a big fucking mistake there.
How dare you?
You'll do it to everyone else, you never do it to me. Isn't Scott Hall handsome here?
Oh, he's wonderful. Him and Nash at this point in their careers are just... I cannot imagine how much sex
Oh, I know. And certainly, as when I was younger, I just used to think that Scott Hall looked like a middle-aged man.
Yes.
And now, as a middle-aged man, I look back and I just go,
What a young buck.
What a handsome man! What a colourful and vivid 20s he must have had. Incredible. The next match we have Intercontinental Champion Shawn Michaels versus Max Moon.
Now,
Oh, have you
to be
ever
able-
seen a spaceman before,
talk
Pete?
to me about Max Moon. There's a video game called Rise of the Robots on the Amiga. It was very much style over substance. They spent a lot of money on CGI kind of robots, and they put the robots in the game, but the moveset was very limiting, and it was just a terrible video game. But the graphics were so good, and he looks like Max Moon. Max Moon could have very easily slid into the roster of fighters.
Originally, what they'd done with it is this was a gimmick that was created for Conan, who was a Mexican performer who was performing at a very, very high level in Mexico. And what they decided to do was they went, we want you to be this character called, at the time, the Comic Kid. And they had made this bodysuit for him to wrestle in. But he had this outer armour that would clip on. And originally, they wanted him to be able to fly to the ring. But unfortunately, that technology doesn't really exist, and certainly not cheap enough to use it on a nightly basis.
Right.
And the idea was it would all go, and it would be spectacular. They spent 5-figure sums on having this made. Conan went out, did a couple of matches, but Conan found himself in opening matches lugging round like 6 flight cases of this costume, being told he couldn't work. And he just went, do you know what? I'm going to go back to Mexico where I'll become a millionaire, which he did. He became the hottest performer of the early to mid-90s in Mexico. So basically, one of the wrestlers called Paul Diamond, he had approached WWF and said, I see that he's gone. That's annoying, isn't it? He spent a lot of money on that suit. I'm the exact same size. wouldn't it be interesting if? And they went, well, we spent so much money on this,
Yeah.
let's give it a go. So they stuck Paul Diamond in the Max Moon suit,
Right.
and he took over. I found a bit online, a memorandum from September 1992, which is entitled Name Ideas for Paul Diamond, brackets comic kid character. This is a fucking spaceman, Pete, and this is what they've come up with. Stellar Star, Stellar Steve, Rocket Star, Warped Factor, Orbitor, Phaser, Rocketor, Blast Off, one word, Astron, Space Star, Luminositor, Zephyron, Blastor, Infinity, and Quagmire.
Quagmire!
With a
that
Y.
takes a turn, doesn't
With
it?
a Y.
With a Y.
Did
Nice.
not know what Quagmire was, did
No.
they? Did not know. So Shawn Michaels is beginning to find his groove now. What he doesn't have yet is a finishing move.
Right.
So he uses a sort of back suplex that he just sort of like scoops his arms either side of one of your legs and then just goes backwards. Even when that first debuted, when I was younger, I remember thinking that is not good. That is like they haven't worked it out and they just don't know what the finishing move is. But it's nice to see the failed finishing move of the hula hoop back suplex. We'll call it that because he makes his arms into a kind of tire.
Stay tuned later on here, folks, live from New York City. Mayor David Dinkins versus Cardinal O'Connor.
Rob Bartlett doing more of his
more bits, yeah.
specific New York related
Yeah.
1993 comedy.
And he's sort of taught that through, and later on you get, is it Mia Farrow versus Woody Allen as well?
Yeah.
And it's like, why have they let him do this? And it's clearly him as well.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is that
It's-
Mia
it's so-
Farrow, Woody Allen, is a graphic, so that was presumably something
Yeah.
they did in the truck. But he squashed that by
Right.
doing the same gag earlier on. You know, you can slightly hear Vince going, like that. This is the bit where he goes, folks, you missed it during the break. Shawn Michaels pulled a knife. And Vince McMahon is now going, stop it, Rob.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
You missed it during the break, folks. Shawn Michaels pulled a knife.
Stop it, Rob.
I'm sorry,
Stop
I'm sorry.
It's not that raw.
Getting a bit
Sorry.
cross. But this is...
I
there's-
don't know about that. Is it when he wants him to show? He goes, I don't know about
the
that.
best bit about that is Vince has started using that as a legal defense.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know about that. Oh, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that either.
There's a bit here where, like, Doink is in the crowd, Max Moon is in the ring, Rob Bartlett is doing an impression of Mike Tyson,
Oh my
and Vince
God.
McMahon is trying to get a comedy improv going.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking,
We didn't need this.
there's a lot of, like, ideas, and there's
Why
a
are we
lot of
why are we talking to an
trying.
incarcerated rapist?
But that is the point. Now, that is the point. Vince keeps this first bit going with Mike Tyson. So Rob Bartlett suddenly
Man of
sort of
three
goes,
voices.
Yeah. Suddenly kind of goes, I'm Mike Tyson. I'm Mike Tyson.
We understand Mr. Tyson has a monitor and a telephone, and he's watching Monday Night Raw.
Hello? Hello, Vince?
Is that Mike? Is that you?
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
That's Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm in solitary confinement.
And Vince goes,
Mike Tyson's here.
Hello there. Who'd have thought Vince would turn out to be terrible at comedy improv? Hello there, Mike.
Hey, who's that on the screen now? Is that Oprah Winfrey?
No, there's no telling what you're going to see here on Monday Night Raw.
Again, as you say, he sort of goes, I'm watching this tonight from... my impression is actually even... it's
Better, yeah.
Rob Bartlett is so
Terrible,
shit.
terrible. Is that there?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Mike Tyson. Oh, it's Mike Tyson.
He's awful.
But Mike Tyson, he sort of goes, I'm watching this tonight from solitary, and Vince is going, ah!
Yeah.
Mike Tyson had been jailed for 6 years in 1992 for the rape of an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I mean, why? What? On what? Even though it's the 90s, at what point are you going? Start doing the impression of the rapist. Okay, and then I'll like josh with them. Bartlett keeps bringing it back. So Vince is now going.
Yes.
And there's a pause, and they'll sort of carry on and go. Shawn Michaels, back suplex. Didn't get him. My manager, Mr. King, is going to reduce my sentence. And Randy Savage goes, seems like he's been reducing your bank account. And Vince goes, oh, well, I don't know about that.
I I don't know about that either.
Vince becomes convinced that him going, I don't know about that, is as legally strong as going, I would like to suggest there is no implication that Don King is doing anything of the sort.
Yes, he's stealing from...
the Mike Tyson impression does name Don King by name. Could it everything going wrong there? They move on a bit, and then you suddenly get Rob Bartlett going, hey, I got a question. And it's like, you can hear that Vince just is thinking, he has said it out loud, and I can't ignore it.
But if you're in the world of improv, you could say goodbye to Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
But you haven't.
No.
So it's on you.
He has to then go, yes, Mike? He does.
Hey, I got a question. Yes, Mike.
What do you call this thing he's doing to him there now?
And it's back up again. Anyway, they're talking, and Savage just suddenly goes, you got a raw deal. We'll say that right now on Raw. You got a raw deal. And Vince goes, well, some people might say he did, but...
Exactly. Hey, listen, you got a raw deal. We'll tell you right there on Monday Night Raw that you got a raw deal when you ended up where you are now.
Some people say he did. Whoa, what a maneuver there, Max Moon!
I'm Randy Macho Man Savage, and I am going to talk about what I think is the correct way to treat women.
Yes.
This is not.
No,
this is
nobody needs that,
fucking
no.
needs this. Rob Bartlett gets back into. I'll leave those characters to one side now, and I'll carry on doing my shtick.
Will he actually...
Watch your dinky! He shouts at one point. When does Max show us his moon, Vince? US radio is just full of that sort of shit.
It
That
really is.
That is the high
Boss.
watermark of US radio from
Oh.
the 80s and 90s, isn't it?
And if you think those characters have gone, they do wrestling podcasts.
We get an ad then for WWF Mania. That's also a new sort of B-stroke-C show. All neon green and sort of screaming and
Yes.
graphics that judder towards you.
Yeah.
It's really unrelaxing. I really sort of,
You're not here to be relaxed.
oh, God, it made me feel very, very, very ill. When it's hot and there's loads of neon coming towards you, when you're watching TV in the still of the dead night, I just made me feel tired suddenly.
This Royal Rumble report brought to you by IcoPro, the integrated conditioning programs. Let's face it, you gotta want it.
This is the point where they cut to the little bit with Mean Gene back in the old style WWF hype segment
But
they used to do.
and I think that this is what really made me it relaxed me, because it was kind of, I remember what kids telly was in the 90s. It was just selling you shit constantly.
Yeah.
And there's like the advert goes on for such a long time for
does.
Rumble and stuff like that.
I mean, I found this so full of dignity, but I also found it really, really nostalgic. And I just, it feels like this is a safe place for me, the WWF Control Center.
Yeah.
Because I know Gene is just going to throw to things seamlessly.
Yeah.
And it's all going to be smooth. And he's going to tell me exactly what I need to know. And he's going to do a good job of hyping what's coming up.
Yeah.
Then, 30 of the greatest superstars in the World Wrestling Federation in the 1993 edition of the Royal Rumble. Remember, in this one, it's every man for himself.
The list of the people coming up in the 1993 Royal Rumble as well is just every single one of them is just a larger-than-life superstar.
Yeah.
It's such simple but effective presentation where you just go, here are the gods, here are the legends, here are the sportsmen who are bigger than sports itself.
Here's Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah, Typhoon
Yes.
has got one where he looks like he's got it done for his mum, because he's like looking over his shoulder and he's got a big smile, and it's like the photo you have when you're 3, where the photographer sits you down and goes sort of behind and goes, look over here, and you turn your head like that, and he's got his beard on and he just looks absolutely delightful. And then Fuji comes in and says Yokozuna 3 times.
Yes, please.
Look at my Yokozuna. My Yokozuna. Yokozuna is the winner.
Heenan turns up outside again. This time he's an Orthodox Jew.
Oh dear.
He,
I forgot about the Jewish bit.
I had to go back a few times to pick out some of the words because he's
Yeah.
slightly off mic. He's wrestling with Sean Mooney.
He's wrestling with Sean Mooney, and he's wrestling with lines and material at times as well. He tries to squeeze. He's like bagel. He puts in bagel, but
He
I
does.
forget, like,
he identifies himself as being Rob Bartlett's Uncle Morty Feldman.
Yes.
And he's what? For the night, for the Raw, on discount, he's a good bagel, he's a good boy.
Wait a minute. No.
I've got to go inside.
What are you talking?
I have to. He's got the tickets for me for tonight for the Raw on discount. He's got the discount. He's a good bagel. He's a good boy.
Just that thing of just going, it's a Jewish impression. I'll just throw in the word discount. And he's a good bagel, and I'll say it wrong and I mean good boy.
Yes.
Tick, big tick. Imagine just doing it nowadays. saying to, I don't know, AJ Styles, we're going to dress you up as an Orthodox sort of from Jew, and just say what comes to mind. You know, be like, oh my God.
No.
So that was the last Raw, everybody. Bad news.
Great run. We had a great run.
Who's the guy with the martini shaker, Vince?
Wow. You've been working with him for some time. You don't know who that is? That's Paul Bearer from the famous Bearer family.
He's definitely earned the right to be the Undertaker's manager.
Whoa! Damien Demento!
The final match on the first Raw is The Undertaker versus Damien Demento. As Rob Bartlett says, well, at least he's using his real name. I mean, come on, mate, no one is. Don't
Stop
hinder. You're here
picking
to help.
at the thread.
And then Vince has to thank the radio station for letting them have Rob Bartlett as well, which is a little bit like
Contractually.
having to thank the company of a man who's broken into your house and shat in the bathroom. You know, just heartbreaking. Damien Demento, it's basically his first competitive match on WWE TV. It is over very, very quickly. He'd been recommended to the WWE. He was an independent performer and he worked on a show with the Bushwhackers.
Right.
And they had said to Vince McMahon, you should have a look at this guy. If the Bushwhackers came to me and said, I've seen what I think is good wrestling, I would
And you go,
guys, thanks a lot. But there's absolutely no need to tell me any more about it. Thank you. Off you go.
In this match, someone's just held up a sign saying "Rest in peace," I think, but it's on a roll of that '80s dot matrix printer.
It's
They've done it on
lovely,
there.
isn't it?
They've done it on folio on the BBC.
I saw a couple of those, and those are the things that you'd have to go into your dad's office, because in those days there was 3 printers in a town.
Yes,
and you would get
and one of them be connected to your
printed out.
Amstrad PCW
And wrapping it up so it didn't tear on the way.
Yes.
Just magic.
Lovely.
And that is it. There's a last bit as well where it seems like they've ended. And for some reason, there is an extra bit on the end where Doink is sort of doing an interview.
Well, I didn't realise he'd broken his arm.
No,
I wasn't a
I
sling.
have a feeling that was because he would pretend it was broken and then he could attack people. But Crush comes out, and Crush is Hawaiian, which is why he says the word bra 95 times. And he says to Doink, he goes, "Don't touch anyone." He says, which is
Touch anyone.
It's really sort of like, why is the clown touching
Yeah.
people? Don't
Should
touch
touch
anyone.
anyone.
Don't. I shouldn't have to be out here, bra.
You've been told.
Explaining this, bra, that you don't touch anyone. Just weird. Heenan is finally outside. It's the last time that we see him. And Sean Mooney says, actually, you know what? They're going to let you up. And he just runs to the door and the show ends. It seems like a missed opportunity to not have got a shot before the taping started of Heenan running into an entirely empty arena.
Yeah, now, so it was sold as that was the gag.
It's not hard. It's so
Jesus.
easy. It's so easy. And they just have him running in. And the reality is, what you're supposed to do is go, haha, it's all over. And he's running in. But the reality would be he'd have run in and there'd be loads of people coming the other way.
Everybody knows.
They'd all go, oh, it's Bobby Heenan.
Yeah,
Cheers.
exactly, yeah.
And so I looked at that and I thought, do you know what? I'm not going to accept that, he went in and it was empty.
Yeah.
I'm going to accept that he got through the door, and when he came in, everyone fucking cheered and pumped the air, and Vince McMahon just went, oh, fuck that up. and that Bobby Heenan had the best night of his life.
Yes.
And he got off with that woman who he was dressed as in the second one, and they got married, and the marriage was blessed by the rabbi he was in the third segment.
Yes.
There. You can't beat
Like
Heenan.
that.
I will not accept it.